international flight.
Yeah, well, like a joke, but yeah, because Paul, yeah, some people may not believe it, but hey, I mean, we love what we do, and we love obviously.
So we get back from Hawaii, right?
Then your mum.
Then my mother
well,
came
she not
for me.
right away, of course. She comes in April.
Came in
so
April.
You're working for the New York.
And I'm
show.
working for New York.
Yeah, but they're beautiful. We have everything framed.
That's right.
So we find.
So I had to find all these places to buy frames. Fantastic frames.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of the work and workmanship in the frames was amazing, and it looked like a lot of Italian stuff, you know. So we found a great place for framing.
Well, everything was better in Quebec.
Better equipment,
really?
actually. Better.
Oh,
yeah. Much better, yeah. Yeah.
Well, maybe direct from France.
Maybe because it's closer to Europe and a lot of European brands, you know, equipment and everything.
Possibly.
Yeah, which made the difference, you know.
And the frames.
Vancouver, we get a lot of American products. And it's just not as good sometimes.
No,
you know.
Like even now the frames we're getting, like the gallery, we get them from Italy and Spain, you know, because it's that quality. They do have some good ones in
they cost more,
LA.
I was going to say, they obviously cost more. What influences framing, and what's because you see, I have a sister-in-law who's a painter, and I'm aware of different methods of framing, and some people go with no frame, they wrap the things around the edge, and other people go for decorative things, and you would imagine that there is a link between the type of art that you do and the frame, and you don't want something too gaudy if you've got very simplistic paintings. But what's your take on it?
Well, there's no doubt that the right frame can really make a painting look like $1 million. But not every painting needs an expensive frame.
Yeah, the double.
Sometimes I double stretcher bars. So I use wide stretcher bars, which are like 2 inches or 1.5 inches. Then you don't need to frame it. It's boxed.
Yeah, it looks good.
For abstracts, it looks really good that way, you know. But certain paintings, you know, I mean, actually Impressionist style paintings really look great with wonderful frames, and, you know.
You know, if you have, like you particularly see in Barcelona, the very wide frames, if you have, like, the foyer of the entrance of a big wonderful hotel, and you've got all that space, then a big painting with a big frame is very impressive.
Sure. Yeah. It's all usually it's to do with expenses when you're younger. You know, there's a lot of expense to buy frames for everything, you know.
And so you have to be so careful.
We never framed anything for years.
Oh,
well,
really?
in the gallery we always did.
In the gallery, but I'm saying when I was selling anywhere.
Oh, not selling out.
You know, in shows sometimes, I never had frames on my
not the mall shows or anything. You know, it's not worth it.
And so you're doing all this painting, you're going around buying frames. Mother turns up.
Yes.
And then we get the van full of paintings. Joanne gets all the paperwork done, because to get through the border we had to have all the right documentation.
And you have to register with the New York tax people.
Oh, God.
I mean, geez, you got to do everything you're taking into the country. Oh, yeah. You have to have paperwork.
Value on them. I mean, they actually made more fuss about the frames that we had.
Yeah.
Really?
And I mean... Yeah.
How rude.
Unbelievable. But...
So anyway, we ended up going to New York. We get to New York.
We don't get there that first night till about 10, and all of a sudden...
We ended up in Harlem.
Yeah. So we say, this scenery looks a little different outside.
Your mum's looking a bit nervous.
Yeah.
But then we're lucky. Paul starts at the gas station.
So we have to get directions. So I stopped at the gas station.
And the guys from Puerto
Rico
Rico
one spoke English, so I luckily spoke Spanish. So I spoke Spanish to the guy, and he was quite happy that I spoke Spanish.
Well, the look of Paul like an artist, you know, he figured.
So they directed us to a hotel in
where we were
New Jersey. We ended up in New Jersey.
But that's where we were going. We had that booked.
Yeah.
So where was the expo then? In the middle of Manhattan somewhere?
It was right in the middle of Jacob Javits Center.
Yeah.
Right.
Huge center.
Yeah, huge.
I mean, they've
like
always done shows.
It's a convention center. And there must have been about 700
and we did
display
a few
artists
shows,
and everything, you know.
Yeah.
It was great. Like, you set up, and your mother and...
Yeah, I set up everything.
The kids, we went.
You guys went off doing a few tourist
People stopped Sila
sites.
with the beautiful outfit your mother made.
That's right.
Knitted. what was it, in the Moves, a little hat and
She gets
a
compliments
coat.
everywhere she goes.
Yeah, it was just crazy. She couldn't believe it. But that's the New Yorkers. They're pretty friendly as well. You know, and even at the show, they stopped us. Oh, where did you get this little girl's outfit? And there she was, proud.
Well, yeah, we like Americans are all friendly usually. New York particularly.
Yeah. New York's one. You got the world is there as well. You know, every nation, every language you can imagine.
So we did the show, and I obviously checked everything out in the show, and I saw this one guy was painting on plexiglass.
Right.
And I saw nothing like what I do now, but it was just painting on plexiglass, and I thought, wow, it's an interesting effect, you know. So I thought, okay, maybe I can
he was just painting,
experiment. Yeah, he was just painting on plexiglass, but it was
on the back.
On the back, but it was. The idea was once the paint's on, it's permanent. You can't change the colour or anything because you're going
in reverse.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that it sort of got me very interested in that particular style.
This is how.
Right.
And this is how I ended up working with plexiglass, except because I've done cloisonné enameling when I was at college in Liverpool, I figured out how to make a filigree silver line throughout my design, like cloisonné enameling. And I used knives together, 2 blades, that would cut a very fine line throughout the frisket so that I could work that way.
And fill in those lines, yeah.
Yeah, so what happens is the style ended up looking like a mosaic. It almost looked like cloisonné enameling, which was the idea I wanted to get. So it took me a while with the sprays and the different
when you got back to Quebec,
and metallics and everything to get the right effect. Experimenting.
Well, you worked on just to finish the show off.
Oh yeah.
You know, we made a few sales and. You know, a few, but we did make one interesting contact, which we didn't know at the time that it was going to be so good. But this was the gallery Outwits, and they had a gallery in Lucerne. Later, when we're in,
he bought a painting,
and the native, wasn't it?
That's right, a big native painting.
Mm.
And then
later
I ended up selling lots to him when we were in France.
Yeah, and
we even drove to Switzerland with the van full of paintings for him.
Yeah, later. But
okay.
I also, actually, from Vancouver, I was shipping.
Yeah.
I remember now, I did get the letters from him. Yeah, could you believe it? In those days, I mean, I keep thinking those days. I mean, it was the 80s, 90s, come on. Well, actually, it's like 30-odd years back, so we did still write, actually, letters.
No computers, no email.
That's
everything had to be
there was
telephone and letters,
yeah.
He lived next door to the Mr. Swatch, who owned a Swatch watch.
Yeah, the Swatch watch guy.
He had a mansion there.
Who lived next to?
The guy we're selling to lived next door to Mr. Swatch.
Okay.
Which we'll get into later when we're back in Canada.
Yeah.
That's another story.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you started, when you came back, you started on your plexiglass, did you?
That's right. I started experimenting.
Mum goes back.
But I had to go out somewhere underneath a bridge nowhere near cars because I didn't want spray to go on any vehicles. So I had to find a secluded place, usually
somewhere dodgy under a bridge or something.
Managed to find some hideaway places to work with
right.
the plexiglass. After ruining a few pieces of plexiglass experimenting, I finally perfected the idea, and ended up doing quite a few of them for the exhibition that we had at our apartment.
Yeah, well then we had. Then, you see, I hadn't, the reason we were there as well was to make contact
with galleries
on the East Coast, so right there in Quebec City. So I figure we have done apartment shows before in the past, but they're not so interested in Vancouver. We certainly were pleasantly surprised in Quebec because they love to get out, and they all came, including the school.
Yeah.
Like in the end, like the school, I didn't even know how they found out about it.
30 students came.
But and the woman in the building that got us the apartment, she lived also in the building. She had a seafood shop. She did all these hors d'oeuvres. Her ex-husband was a politician.
He
and
brought
she
his
said,
friends.
let me invite
Nice.
people.
Yeah.
And
We must have had about 70 people.
yeah, and I send out these invitations also to some galleries in Ottawa and Montreal and Quebec City. We end up 3 galleries from Quebec City come, and I make my contact, which lasts for about 10 years, Ottawa and Montreal.
Just from one house.
Just from
show.
that one little
plus
invitation.
we made about 7,000
Yeah.
that night.
Yeah, it was
So,
crazy.
I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah, it was just...
They're very,
and she
very
did these beautiful
into,
hors
you know,
d'oeuvres.
it's a cultural city, so
Yeah.
I guess it's in their blood, you know.
Yeah,
the
they're
people
interested.
are so interested in art.
Yeah, they really
Yeah.
And then, of course, I started, of course, selling out in underneath the Frontenac in this square.
Okay.
So I'd take my paints there. I would paint a painting at the same time. I'd have 2 or 3 exhibited, and I never got any trouble with the police or any other artists. In fact, the other artists came up and said,
very
"Oh,
nice.
wonderful," and they were very friendly. So
Yeah, they're very
it worked out pretty
classy,
good actually
really,
for selling as well.
Yeah, they had respect. That was it.
Yeah.
And the plexiglass, was that dominating your style, or were you doing a mixture of stuff at that time?
No, I was still doing a lot of canvas because the plexi couldn't really,
It's hard
because
to
they can't
handle.
they have to be framed. You can't have
yes.
them unframed. So therefore I didn't ever have those out on the street. Not till Vancouver that I started doing that. And even in Vancouver they had to be framed when I was selling in the park. And I must have sold hundreds of them in the
They
park.
can scratch.
Really?
They can be
Yeah,
broken.
they can break.
You have
they
to
can,
handle
That's
you have to
true.
be very careful with them.
care, yeah.
And
And that's why they're more expensive.
Yeah, one time we used to ship plexi back east.
Oh, yeah, we did.
And one did get smashed up.
Yeah, but only one.
Someone must have spiked it with a spear, and it was like inside it was just a star-shaped cracks all the way through the painting.
Well, that was once. I mean, you just have to. We didn't get crates. We just made sure that
We tried to
the
wrap them
bubbles
pretty
and
good,
everything.
but
Yeah.
very rare that they get broken. But
Well, one went to Japan.
yeah, oh yeah,
Well, actually, a few, but that's
yeah,
later,
that's
isn't it?
later, yeah.
We did the Friendship Society in Tokyo.
Because then I was doing large paintings. I mean, I've got one in the apartment here that's a plexiglass that's like 7 foot tall by, no, 8 foot
Samurai
tall by,
Warriors.
by
8
6
foot
foot
tall.
wide
Wow.
Yeah.
of samurai warriors.
They're in sections.
In
Right.
2.
Yeah.
And then most of the sizes I did were like 3 by 4, 4 by 4, 4 by 5s. And otherwise it's kind of hard to handle as well when they get too big.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
can imagine.
they are wonderful. But just going back to when you're in the square, the Rue Trésor, then you meet the Basque guy, and then you do the show
that's right.
in Trois Pistoles.
Trois Pistoles. That was a Basque gentleman from Trois Pistoles.
We were invited to the fiesta.
He invited us to the Basque Festival, which they have there every year.
Ah, fantastic.
And that's where we learnt all about the Basques, how they used to come there with their with their fishing boats, and they'd leave their big main whaling boat at the estuary of the St. Lawrence, and they'd come.
Basque, they've got a few
Porto
names.
Basque, yeah. They even have one called the Biscay.
Biscay Bay.
Biscay Bay. Yeah. So, I mean, the Basques, really, there was a lot of influence of Basques there way before, Canada was even discovered. Because the Basques were never conquerors. They never wanted to take over any country that they went to, because they basically had the best place in the world already.
Well, that's what they figured. Yeah.
That's what they think, and that's what we think. So no wonder they never wanted to go anywhere else, to take over or conquer.
That's brilliant. And did you know there was a Basque clubs
Not
or
before
society?
we went there.
No.
Oh,
vaguely,
we knew there was
yes.
one in Vancouver.
Well, we knew
But
that
I mean,
there's a
in
place.
Quebec. In Quebec,
No,
did you
we
know there
didn't
was
know
this place?
anything.
No.
No.
Brilliant.
Well, we
They
only
never-
knew that the Basques arrived before Columbus. Of course, we'd heard about that.
Someone had told us
we
that,
didn't
yeah.
know much else.
No.
It was.
So that was interesting as well, meeting all these people there. And I even had a little art show there as well, which was neat.
Oh yeah.
And then, of course, there was 3 galleries, and we actually first started with one of the other galleries before the second gallery. But then we decided to, we didn't like him as much as the others, so we said,